Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas.
Hello, American Patriots. Welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. While the impeachment of President Trump is over, he's been acquitted. Don't fool yourself for a minute that this is really over. What we have watched and heard from the Democrat Party for the past 3+ years should scare all Americans. Their words, their actions have been un-American, unhinged, and blatantly ridiculous and sometimes sickening. We can do better than this, America, and we need to do so at the ballot box when we re-elect Donald J. Trump, win back the House, keep the Senate. Most importantly, we must hold every member of every political party accountable for their actions. My guest tonight is Harvard legal scholar, Professor Alan Dershowitz. He is a lawyer and academic. He's been fighting for civil liberties since 1962, the year I was born, by the way. He's a scholar of the United States Constitution, author of several amazing books, with his most recent being The Case Against Impeaching Trump and The Case Against BDS, while signaling out Israel for boycott is anti-Semitic. And he was a member of President Trump's legal team, where he presented oral arguments at the Senate trial against impeachment and removal from office. Welcome, sir, to the Douglas Ducote Show, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. Can you hear me, sir?
I hear you fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. I want to ask you, this week, you had said that under the same circumstances that President Trump was up against, that you would have been against impeachment of even a Democrat president under these same conditions.
Right.
That should show everyone that you're unbiased. Plus, you've admitted in the past that you didn't vote for Trump and that you're more of a liberal Democrat. Why do you think that the Democrats, for whatever reason, don't seem to be buying this? I mean, it seems like they turn on anyone that goes against what their speaking points are at that particular moment.
Well, we live in a very divided country in a very divided time. I never would have believed that Nancy Pelosi would call for me to be disbarred, along with the other fine lawyers who spoke up for President Trump on the floor of the Senate. That's just old-fashioned McCarthyism. When you go after the lawyers, I presented a coherent constitutional argument based on my own research. And of course, many in the Democratic Party have come after me. Senator Schumer, Congressman Nadler, and Congressman Schiff both accused me of saying the president could do anything, even commit crimes, if he thought his own reelection was in the public interest. I never said anything like that. Both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times confirmed that Schumer and the other congressmen and senators had totally distorted my views. I wish we could get back to a situation where we can disagree with each other. You can disagree with my arguments without being disagreeable, without calling me names, without calling for disbarment, without creating false impressions about what I said. America suffers when we engage in ad hominem attacks on each other. So I hope that the end of the impeachment will mark maybe the beginning of new civility, where maybe we can work together in the national interest.
I agree. Thank you for that. Let me ask you, as someone who probably knows more about our Constitution than any other American, do you think that the House and Senate Democrats maybe don't care about the rule of law, or they just refuse to educate themselves on the subject? Because you laid it out pretty simple during the impeachment hearing.
Yeah, I thought I did. They didn't want to listen. They had their mind made up. The impeachment in the House was purely partisan. It was along complete party lines. The vote in the Senate was almost completely partisan, with only one vote by my former student. Mitt Romney voting for conviction on one count, but not on the other. I don't think we saw a lot of open minds among the Democrats. They were determined to impeach. They said they were going to impeach some of them from day one, even before President Trump took the oath of office. Look, I wasn't happy when President Trump won the election. I was hoping for Hillary Clinton to win the election, but I accepted it and move on. I agree with some of President Trump's policies. I disagree with other policies. I agreed with some of President Obama's policies, and I strongly disagreed with some. That's what bipartisanism means. It means you attack and criticize the person you voted for if he does something wrong, and you support the person you voted against if he does something right. I would hope we could return to those days where we can all support what's right without regard to who the party is or who the president is.
Yeah, I agree 100%. As a military veteran with 4 combat tours, I find myself wondering what happened to the America that I served for. I went in under Ronald Reagan in 1985 and retired in 2004.
Well, thank you for your service, first of all. Thank you for
sir.
your service. You know, I
Thank
go
you.
out of my way to thank every policeman, every soldier, every fireman, every school teacher I see. I really think we have to show appreciation when you served and protected us. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I agree. Thank you so much. When I find myself often looking back at my service and the things that were happening political wise then, and even as growing up as a teenager in the South, under proud Democrat parents, and I was raised Democrat. I was a Democrat
up in. Where were you raised? What city?
Baton Rouge.
My wife's in Charleston, South Carolina, so we have some Southern connections too.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. What I see right now, sir, is that I find myself looking at where we're at today, and I think this is no longer the America that I served under. And I know my great-grandfather, before he died, he was a World War II veteran, he was telling me the same thing, and he died about 10 years ago now, but he was saying, I don't recognize this America. Have you ever thought, you've been doing this, since 1962, you've been fighting for civil liberties. Did you ever think in your lifetime that you would see an America as divided as we are right now?
No, I grew up during McCarthyism, and the country was deeply divided. Then I came of age during the Vietnam War, when we saw tremendous divisions, but I've never seen divisions of the kind that I've seen today. Relatives don't talk to each other, friends don't talk to each other. You can't have dialogue on university campuses. People just shout at each other. I try to make a serious argument in front of the Senate, and people don't respond. They just call me names and seek my disbarment for the arguments that I've made. Now, we're in a terrible, terrible time, and we have to get over it because it's weakening our country. As Abraham Lincoln told us, a nation divided cannot stand. And we're divided today, not the way we were divided in 1860, but we're divided in a way more serious than any time since the end of the Civil War, I think. And it's weakening our country, and it's making it harder for us to present the united front against many of the evils of the world, like terrorism and bigotry. And I would hope that after this impeachment, maybe we can see some movement to come together. But Nancy Pelosi tearing up the State of the Union message and seeking disbarment of lawyers, and some of the Democrats just lying about what was said on the floor of the Senate, those don't help us move toward any kind of agreement. I think we ought to come back to the days with Lincoln-Douglas debates. If you have a disagreement, you have a debate, you have a discussion. We don't have that anymore. Today, CNN, for example, bans me. It won't let me be on CNN because I criticized them for how they characterized my statements in front of the United States Senate. So if you criticize CNN, you're banned. You can't be on it. So people don't hear all sides of all positions. They pick a TV channel, they watch it, they learn one perspective, and they then don't understand where the other people are coming from because they have the opposite. They hear another perspective and they don't hear. I think it's so important to flip the channels, to be able to get different perspectives read different newspapers, look at different websites, and then maybe you'll understand what it feels like to be in somebody else's shoes. But today we're not doing that. We're picking sides, and if you're a traitor to your side, then you're an outlier and nobody will socialize with you. And that's what I've been experiencing. And, I'm used to it. I've done a lot of controversial cases in my life, but there have been threats to my family, threats to my wife, threats to people around me and close to me. And that's just not the American way.
As a matter of fact, just recently, in the past 24 hours, I've spent some quality time talking with law enforcement over the amount of threats that I'm receiving because of my show, because of my YouTube videos, threatening to harm me, my wife, my kids, signaling out my special needs son, even my pets. I mean, it's absolutely insanity, the level they go to with their hatred because they can't have a civil debate. And
well, I think I agree. And part of it is social media. You can say anything on Twitter. You can call anybody any names you want, and there's no accountability. People do it anonymously, and people also just sign their names too. They don't care. They're willing to use epithets, but reasoned discourse and debate, which is what I grew up with, just doesn't seem to exist anymore. Even on universities today, so many of my colleagues, academic colleagues, instead of disagreeing with me and trying to write law review articles or op-eds showing that I'm wrong and showing that they're right, they just engage in street yard name calling that doesn't get us anywhere. And so it's very, very distressing. And it comes from all sides. And I think Americans suffer when we have that kind of lack of discourse and dialogue.
We do. We suffer a lot because of that. I want to have you on later if you're willing to talk about Ilhan Omar. We don't have time to do that tonight, but a lot of the things that she has been saying since actually even becoming a member of Congress has been very, very disheartening to a lot of us.
I agree.
Veterans.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I hope she's defeated in the next election. She does not serve with distinction in the United States Congress, and I would like to see her defeated, even though she's a Democrat. If I lived in that district, I almost never vote Republican, but I would vote Republican against her for almost any candidate. Of course, I'd have to assess that candidate as well, and I would certainly support anybody running against her in a primary. I do not believe she represents the good people of her district. I think she has bigotry in her soul and in her heart, and I would like to see her defeated. And I'd love to come back to your show sometime to talk about it. I have to go now. You have to go now. Yes. But thank you for having me on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir. And everybody can follow you at your .com is right here on the screen in front of us. Are you doing Twitter at all? I've been banned for life from Twitter.
No, I do Twitter sometimes. My wife won't let me do Twitter, but I can do it if I get approval of my assistant and my wife. It has to be a unanimous vote, and then I'm allowed to tweet. So Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir. You're a great American patriot, and we appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Folks, we are a divided country. And sadly, when I tell you that this is not the America that I serve for, I mean that from every fiber in my body. My wife can testify to that. All of my family can testify to that. Even my own personal friends that I served in the military with and law enforcement with, when we had talks about where we're at today and where we're going in the future, it all comes around to what happened. How did we go so far left? As I've said before, I'll say it again. I was raised a Democrat. I was a proud member of the Democrat Party until I joined the United States military and realized that if we needed supplies, equipment, the things to make our military strong to survive and combat. And that's what the military is for. You know, we prayed not to go to combat, but that's our mission. If we needed the right things to survive under Democrat leadership as a president, we didn't have it because they cut the budget so bad for the military. Under a Republican, we did. Well, as someone serving in the military, what do you think's going to happen? Do I want to die on the battlefield because my own equipment broke down? Or, you know, many other ways that things can go wrong when you have leadership that their number one priority is not taking care of their troops. So I look back on what's happening across our country. I've been doing it for quite some time. It's very scary. Yes, we have this impeachment over with. It's officially, today is the very first day to go through with this on the shelf, but it's not over. What we've seen happening with these Democrats up in Washington, D.C., Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they're not done. They will continue relentlessly to find everything they can, everything negative or even positives, and turn them into negatives against this president. If he wins in 2020 coming up, and I pray he does, because God help us if any of those that are trying to be the next president on the Democrat side were to make it in. But if he does, and we have 4 more years, he will have 4 more years of the exact same type of treatment that he has had from day one of becoming our president, which is why it is so damn important that we not only win the presidency, but midterms, we have got to take the House back. We have got to keep the Senate. We come very close, my friends, with Mitt Romney splitting and at midterms losing the House. Just think, had we been even at the Senate, just even, our president would not be in office today. Yesterday, he would have been removed. That's how important this is. If President Trump does get reelected to serve 4 more years, and we were to lose the Senate at any given point in his presidency, you can bet 100% he won't see the end of the 4 years, because the Democrats will come up with any excuse they possibly can to waste your money going after this man and getting him out of office. That's how much hatred they have. Now, why do they do that? Well, it's pretty simple. Because they can't run against his policies. There's not a snowball chance in hell. Our economy is great. Jobs are flourishing. The unemployment rate for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans is at an all-time low. The stock market is booming. Companies are coming back to America that had left America during the previous administration. We have a country that has been turned around from the 8 years of Democrat destruction. And they can't help themselves but to go against everything they possibly can, because the American people are happy with what's happening. If you're not happy, think about this for a moment. If you wake up every morning and you're miserable because of the conditions of what Trump has done for the country, then you need to go check yourself, maybe some counseling or some mental health, because anyone that would not want how we're right now and to improve on that has something wrong with them. Stop listening to CNN and MSNBC's talking points. Stop listening to these Democrats and these liberals, because they are batshit crazy. They do not have you, the American people, at the center of what's most important in their life. They're there for their own self and their family. They're self-serving, and it's not right. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we're going to open up the phone lines, and we will talk about the impeachment and where we're at today in America. So stay tuned, hang in there, and we'll be right back after this. Hello, American Patriots. Douglas Ducote here. The Second Amendment, it's not for hunting. It's for protecting ourselves against our government. Well, the last thing you need to worry about is your weapon being rusted and not working. Folks, here's your product. FirearmGuard.com. Use promo code DOUG for free shipping. This will protect your weapon from any rust and mildew issues.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic.
And we are back.
All right.
And
Hey, Doug, this is Dustin here. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, so to the audience, we had to make a lot of adjustments to the soundboard and everything to get Professor Dershowitz on the way that we had to bring him on from his home studio. So the call-in board is all rewired, and to change some of these settings to get it to work, I'd have to shut down the thing. So I don't know if you want to shut down for a little 15 minutes and come back and do some phone calls, or if you want to wait until the new system is up on Tuesday or Monday, actually, for the super panel.
You know what? We'll wait till Monday for the super panel to do it, and we will, with the new system getting in place, starting on next Tuesday and Thursday, hopefully we have all that cleared up. What we're going to start doing is we will attempt at every show towards the last 30 minutes of the show to open the phone lines up. But I don't want to shut down for 15 minutes to make that adjustment. So I'm sorry about that, folks, if we're going to call in tonight, not being able to. So let me talk real quick about what we've witnessed today. If you haven't already seen this, I don't want you to turn on CNN or MSNBC to watch it, but you can go on YouTube and you can Google or put in YouTube the different things that were said by members of the Democrat Party since the acquittal of the impeachment. You can listen to what Nancy Pelosi had to say, what Adam Schiff had to say. Listen to what AOC had to say. Listen to the absolute destruction of their message. What they're saying and how they're saying it is about as un-American as it could ever possibly get. It's actually disgusting to listen to what they have to say. You know, it was bad enough what Nancy did at the end of Trump's State of the Union address when she tore up the speech for all to see. One would think that afterwards, and the feedback she received on that, all you got to do is look at her Twitter account in the comments or Facebook. You would think that she'd realize the mistake that she made, and she would somehow find a way to at least try and bring people back together as the Speaker of the House. I mean, that's her job. But instead, she went into the direction of, I don't know, what's a good word of putting it? Someone with a serious alcohol and addiction problem, babbling full of hatred and disgusting things. You know, Trump today, without mentioning her name, mentioned how he's not too fond of people that always say they pray for him, those that he knows do not because of their words in public. He was talking about Nancy Pelosi, who always, after trashing this man, explains how she prays for him. She claims to be a Catholic, and that may be her faith. I used to be a Catholic. I'm a recovering Catholic today. But I do know this much. I've never met a Catholic that agrees with abortion, and especially abortion at birth, which would be murder. In other words, the Democrats of today are okay with the mother making the decision to terminate her pregnancy after the child is born, as long as it takes place within minutes of being outside of its mother. That is the stuff of horror movies. That is murder. There's no other way of putting it. Nancy Pelosi supports that. Every member of the Democrat Party support murdering a baby at birth if the mother agrees to it at that moment. Now, allow them to take back over the presidency and the House and the Senate. Folks, they might even give it up to 1 year to terminate that child. That's how sickening this is. That's how important this upcoming election is. And then we listen to people like Ilhan Omar, who is on record, not once, not twice, but many times. Go look it up for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. It's all over YouTube. On record, trashing our military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our Constitution, our president, everything that we stand for. This is a woman who was rescued, her and her family, from a war-torn country, Somalia, and brought to America, saved, and given the freedoms that we have here. Her entire life was turned around because of America. Yet, she hates everything about us, and so does the rest of the squad, Rashid Tlaib and AOC. And you got to ask yourself, why is that happening? You know, for those of you who don't know this, you ever seen the movie Black Hawk Down? If you haven't, watch it. It's a great movie. The way it ends is sad. It's a mission that our U.S. military undertook in Somalia, which is, oh, by the way, where she was born. And the brave men and women that lost their lives, brave men, because I don't believe there were any women in the operation that lost their lives. If there were, my apologies deeply, but I believe it was just men that lost their lives in that conflict. But she believes that those that lost their lives in that conflict, some that were, their bodies were dragged through the streets and hung from bridges, and after they were dead were dismantled and just beat to a pulp. She believes those American heroes were the real terrorists in that incident. It's in her own words. She has spoken. She also sworn in to our Congress, not with her hand on the Bible, but her hand on the Quran. Just a few years ago, if somebody would have told me that I would witness this one day in America, I would tell you, you're absolutely insane. But no, it's reality. It is reality of a political party, the Democrats, that used to be basically kind of conservative, pro-law enforcement, pro-military, pro-vets, pro-constitution. You go back to the era of John F. Kennedy, those were some proud moments. Today, it's taken over by liberal socialism, and the party's been destroyed, dismantled, and has become something that is completely unhinged and unrecognizable. It is, at a minimum, un-American. It is disgusting. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why so many people in America follow them. They're like freaking sheep that will follow them right off the cliff. And then they get CNN and MSNBC to repeat their angry, hateful, bigotry ideology and shove it right down our throats. I will continue to fight the good fight for our country. My service is not over with. My service to America will be done when they're lowering me into the ground at my death. Not until. I consider myself a great American patriot that literally bleeds red, white, and blue. And anyone that knows me, you can ask them. You probably won't find another human being that is more patriot, that's more loving, that's more, I just absorb and try and put back out to the community, America. I love the United States of America, but I fear my government. Even with a Republican president and a Republican Senate, the liberals have infiltrated our government so bad in the 8 years of the Obama era, and the FBI and the CIA and law enforcement across this land, especially in major metropolitan cities that are run by Democrat mayors, where you see an epidemic of black on black crime and black youth gunning each other down on their streets. This party, the Democrat Party, has gone mad. And we can only stand up to it to a degree of being peaceful, praying, but at the same time, stand ready. Stand ready if the time ever comes that we, the American patriot, have to go back to the battlefield right here on American land to once again battle other humans. And in this case, it'd be an ideology of socialism disguised as Democrats. And that will be a day that I hope we don't have to witness. But sadly, I do believe we will see it. I will see it in my lifetime. So If that happens one day, it will be up to us to back up, to have the 6 of our brothers and sisters in blue, to be ready to support our members of the law enforcement and our National Guard. It will be us, those that believe in the Second Amendment, those that believe in the Constitution. It will be us that helps take the battle to the enemy of the people to take back America. It will be you and I. And history, I do believe, will show that even if that day was tomorrow, we would be remembered as true liberators. We would be remembered as patriots. But rest assured, for the first 50 or so years, we would be called domestic terrorists, because they're already trying to label you that now, especially if you believe in the Second Amendment, if you're a veteran, and if you're white. Don't believe me, just listen to what the squad says on a daily basis. If you haven't already done so, please go over to douglasducote.com. That is my website, and sign up. With your email address, it's free, so you'll be able to get information about where we're at, what we're doing, videos that are coming out, the different things that we're embarking on, locations we're going to. We've recently come back from the Second Amendment rally in Richmond, Virginia. We were in Nashville, Tennessee, where I spoke at a wonderful women's convention to talk about empowering women. And we're about ready to head back to the border again to continue the border investigation and documentary that we've been working on. Those are things that you'll be able to see there, along with other things about myself and the Patriot Shop, which is pretty cool too, where you can get some pretty nice, cool shirts and things of that nature, hats and so forth. I would say join me at Twitter, but I've been banned for life on Twitter. Yes, I have. So that's done with. I'm still on Facebook. You can find me at American Patriot by the Grace of God and the Douglas Ducote Show Facebook page. Folks, I want to thank my guest again, Professor Alan Dershowitz, and I appreciate all of you that tune in to tonight's special show. I'll be back on Mondays, okay? Not just the show we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the Douglas Ducote Show, but on Mondays, we do a Patriot panel where it's myself and other American Patriot YouTubers that get together, and for an hour, we discuss what's happening in America amongst ourselves, and we take call-ins as well. Next Monday will be on American Joe's YouTube channel. So go over to American Joe and join his channel and like it, subscribe to it, and look at the video of the last panel we did, the last several panels we did. It's on my YouTube site, and go to all of those wonderful Patriot sites and join and sign up as well, so you can be a part of that. And then, of course, always on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is we do the Douglas Ducote Show. The typical time is 8 p.m. Central. We did it tonight at 9 to accompany our guest because he was on Sean Hannity earlier, and we couldn't get him until the 10 o'clock Pacific or Eastern time. So that's why we were an hour late getting on tonight. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, our president, and our country. I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed evening, and I'll see you next Monday. I'm Douglas Ducote, and for now, I'm out.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially